Hello and welcome back to the Weplay Invitational round of 16 with the second game of this best of 3 between Dark Passage and Avalanche. I have transformed into Metas and Spuddington has transformed into me. How's it going? Is apparently not even here. Outstanding.
I'm here. I was actually unmuted already while I was shifting around in my chair, making squeaky noises, and then I muted myself in order to talk. So
excellent.
I'm good.
Fantastic. Well, we were jumping into the Champion Select very shortly, and it will be appearing on our screen. But also to note, we will be casting over stream for the duration of Champion Picks and Bans, so we will be behind you guys, and we will be commenting on things way after they have happened. But either way, banned champions so far on our screens: Shyvana, Zed, Kasten, and Annie.
Yep, all of these bans making quite a bit of sense. Kassadin, still a very feared mid lane. Zed, perhaps a little bit less seen than he was since of the last set of nerfs, which is after the 2 sets of nerfs before that. He's now back to maybe where you don't always pick or ban him. But Shyvana also a very, very popular champion at the moment. And Annie, perhaps with the new support changes, becoming top tier on the grounds that she was already very, very strong and is now getting extra gold as well. So for the later game, she gets even more perilous. And obviously Renekton, just because there was a thing Nitrix said to me. Dignitas UK Nitrix, he said, top lane's really easy at the moment. You just pick Renekton. It's all fine.
That's a very accurate statement, honestly. Renekton has so many good matchups in top lane. He really doesn't have any bad matchups, and even if he does, he's got room to outplay them. He's very good at not being dived because of Dominus. He's also good at supporting lane ganks from the jungler. He's just a very good top lane.
Yeah, there's just everything you could possibly want, he does. There are occasionally other matchups that do one or other things of the things that Renekton can do better than Renekton. Like you can get Shen, who is a better split pusher, but Renekton will have that utility always. So, scary, scary thing. I will say, though, if we have a Riven mid lane, that would be an interesting but not unheard of thing. Now, we are seeing it occasionally in competitive play, and if that goes up against Syndra, who is apparently bugged at the moment, incidentally, that could be a really explosive matchup.
It could indeed, and not because of the bug, but also the Lucian has been picked up along with the Nunu, which worked out so well last game. I'm a little surprised that they didn't go ahead and ban that out. It was incredibly disruptive to the objective taking and indeed the team fights, especially if they go for another disruptive mid laner. Indeed, Syndra fits that bill, but Elise will be in the jungle, so at least they have some sort of duelist potential against Nunu this time around.
Yeah, I didn't actually catch the previous game. I was busy playing Dark Souls, which is my other major pastime aside from League of Legends. But I don't actually know what the composition was. I did catch the very end, so I did see a couple of unusual picks, stuff like Graves. But could you give me a little overview of the previous game?
Yeah, so basically both of the teams went for very similar compositions, but Nunu was picked, so was Morgana as well, and they just went for this huge AoE composition. What was very interesting about it, though, is they must have premeditated it and practiced it before, because what they did is they chained the big AoE ultimates that kind of force people away, and then have Fabulous as the cleanup crew of Kha'Zix. As everyone was pushed back, he would always be in a one-on-one, and he also used the black shield so they couldn't disrupt Nunu either. It was perfect, but not what they're going to be running this time.
No, if you have a very specific composition where only any single champion being taken out of it could ruin it, it tends to be one where you won't play it exactly the same way every single time. And they are still running with the Nunu, which is probably not going to work quite as well as the previous game if, as you say, no black shield and also no or a less attack speed dependent AD carry. Or, well, in fairness, Graves and Lucian, neither of them are particularly attack speed dependent, but both of them have that shared aspect where Nunu's Blood Boil is going to be a little bit less useful than you might expect. However, that is a legitimate Draven pick, I believe.
Interesting. So lots of very funky AD carries coming out, and this time from the opposing team of Avalanche Prime. So Draven still brings a lot of damage to the table, huge burst potential at level 6, basically did the same thing as Graves last time as we saw Sona being picked up, and just a lot of burst damage available to them. They're a very snowbally team as well. Elise also fits that type of composition, and they have an answer to Nunu so that he can't just run rampant in their jungle. And the Nasus gets picked up from Dark Passage.
Ooh, that's really, really good. if this is a Riven mid, which is what we would expect from this situation because Shen mid is very unusual, it's going to mean Nasus versus Shen, and Nasus is anathema to Shen. He does so many things that will really, really ruin Shen's day because Shen, his early damage is higher than you expect, but it's not enough normally to push out Nasus from that top lane early on, which you need to do. And Nasus usually is able to get to that point where he just hits critical mass and Shen becomes utterly unable to duel him. He just forces him away. He has the ultimate potential to all-in destroy him, has that hybrid damage, and it's just all around awful for Shen once it gets to a certain point, especially if Nasus runs teleport, so he can always respond to Shen making plays across the map. The only thing that is worth noting, though, is that the last patch did nerf Nasus' sustain early on. That is, in fact, the only nerf he took, so maybe there's more of an opportunity there.
And some people were saying, Spuddington, is the biggest buff, honestly, to Nasus last patch, and the reason he's probably going to be nerfed again at some point is because of not only the remake, but also the skin. People are going to start playing him top lane and realize he's amazing. So, I predict more nerfs in the future, because I think he's been sleeper OP for a little while, honestly. But we might see that coming very shortly. Either way, the teams have gone back into champion selects because I hope it wasn't a placeholder, because we've already spoken about the compositions, but we are waiting on confirmation for that. Our producer, they had a swap bug. Okay, that would be very annoying.
Yeah, you don't usually want to be jungling Nasus with Ignite or something like that. As it happens, that doesn't change any of the actual dynamics of this game. We may actually, further to that Nasus pick, see a 2v1 swap up, because with that lowered sustain and with the fact that kind of forces him to farm his Spirit Fire, that might give Shen an opportunity later on, who will scale better off pure experience, to kind of have a small window where he can make split pushing plays and force Nasus back. But I do feel like it's almost an inevitability that Nasus will get stronger. And I have to actually say as well, you are, I think, correct about the Nasus having been sleeper OP for a very long time now. Because the last time he was buffed or nerfed, excluding the last patch, was 3 or 4 patches ago. And it's only very recently that we've started to see him, even in solo queue, getting any kind of acceptance in that top lane. It's just not what we've been seeing.
Indeed, and he's just kind of that classic time bomb in the top lane as well, and they don't have a direct kind of answer to him, honestly. As soon as Nasus gets rolling, they can't stop that train, and it's going to be so difficult for them. And that's something, if they're playing against the clock, especially in the game that they essentially have to snowball with their composition, and the fact that they're one game down, this is not a great position to be in as Avalanche Prime. But before we jump to a quick commercial break, I will remind you of the giveaway we have today for the Logitech G300 mouse. Go ahead and go over to the facebook.com/WePlayLol page and also put down a comment and like the page, and you will be in contention to pick up that mouse. Alternatively, type !giveaway in chat, in Twitch chat, and you will be also shown the link to the page if you were unable to understand what I am saying.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the game 2 of this best of 3 between Dark Passage and the team that I have got the name of because I'm jumping in halfway through the best of 3 because Metis is clenching his buttocks. I am Spuddington, joined by Pulse.
Indeed, that was not how I was going to... Anyway, so into kind of standard formation, both these teams just going to back on off, and I say standard, but honestly, most games we do see some sort of invade. These teams going to be playing it very passively. Maybe that's an effect of the fact there's more wars to play with and more people on the teams. Like, different people can go for invades in different places, and if there is a place where they can expose that weakness, then someone else can do it. In fact, instead of just the support being the one who has to be in the right place.
Yeah, it's actually one of those interesting things that changes even though you wouldn't necessarily expect it to have done so. Because it's not a direct effect of the changes, it's just the consequence in that kind of very roundabout way that sometimes happens. And I would like to note, by the way, the first time I've actually seen someone running it, Fabulous has run that mastery in the defensive tree that gives him a shield that starts off every time he goes back to the spawn pad.
Yeah, we saw it last time from the jungler, and once again, in fact, at least we'll be picking up. He also had it last game as Jarvan. I haven't seen it in top lane though, but it makes sense as Nasus. I mean, there's literally no real point to go for anything other than penetration on armor penetration or even magic penetration on Nasus and just go tank. I mean, he gets enough natural bonuses that you could just commit hard into the defensive tree.
Yeah, it is definitely true. Nasus is the classic character to just play defensively, and much as one would expect, we are seeing a swap up. I will say though that Draven, probably as compared to most AD carries, is going to punish Nasus hard if he ever tries to go for any farm. He is going to be running a lot of sustain though, so he should be okay, but it's not going to be the monster Nasus you sometimes see from Shen.
Interesting that Shen has actually opted to go for the golems. Going to be taking a lot of damage for his troubles, which is kind of to be expected, but they weren't freezing it. And that's the typical play if they are freezing it and you can't do anything else. He's actually lost a lot of minions to turrets already, and he wasn't necessarily going to be pushed out at his turret.
Yeah, it's actually a couple of times we've seen that exact play being made. Holy Phoenix doing quite a lot of damage, and he needs to be careful about that. But we actually saw Team Dignitas UK in a very similar situation with their bot lane, with Shen taking the double golems. They were running Varus, and they actually predicted that exact play as well. Moved Varus around with a piercing arrow and actually stole away the golem.
Yeah, that game was absolutely amazing. It was incredibly fun to watch, and also incredibly fun to watch the support as they do the extra farming with the new items. In the mid lane though, CLG.eu shaping very well against Syndra.
Yeah, well, Syndra is a champion who does very poorly if people get in on her and start beating her face in. She reacts very poorly to that, and apparently the bug, by the way, with the stun is something to do with it not proccing correctly off of her E. But Fabulous in the top lane going aggressive.
Indeed, also with Nunu coming around the side, actually just bought enough time for him to clear that one out, more than going all in. But now that they've cut the vision away from them, Roldo dropping towards the lower part of that river, snowball to the face, and in fact Nasus will not be following up, but it has allowed him to freeze it at his turret. Meanwhile in the bot lane, the cocoon will not land as we look for the follow, gets the extra the extra follow with Venomous Bite, but just comes back down with Repel.
Yeah, that was a little bit of a random repel there at the end, but didn't really matter. And I just want to note for a second that we have got the Relic Shield from Nami being picked up right now, which is the support item I'm not expecting to see a lot of in solo queue. Crystal Meth in the top lane though. Yeah,
top lane once again. They've choked them off the vision. Roldo not in good shape. He flashes out immediately. Draven trying to kite them away, and indeed does so successfully as Crystal Meth just takes a bite out of their minion life.
Yes, indeed. And they're trying to make sure that Fabulous keeps himself in good shape, because they need him to be strong coming out of the laning phase in order to deal with Shen. At the moment, he's got, 21 extra damage on his Q, which isn't fantastic, but it could be worse, and he is going to be able to go back, is going to be able to pick up some defensive items, and not have to worry about his tower falling in the meantime. In fact, there has been no damage on that Nasus tower. Holy Thoth in the bottom though, haunted.
Indeed, auto attacks continue to come down. Cocoon lands onto Holy Phoenix. They trade off against them. They do have very good trading potential, especially with Nami amplifying that, but not something they can completely follow up on. The mid lane though, the flash comes down and the ignite. That's surely a dead Naru for first blood.
Really nice play from Riven, and doing exactly what a Riven needs to do. Snowball the game. However, experienced snowballing of her own.
Yeah, indeed, as Crystal Meth comes into the lane, but is also Nunu.
Yeah, he doesn't really do much killing. He just kind of walks in and says hi. He is going to force that into tower though, so you will fall a little bit behind on XP, but obviously the kill is going to more than make up for that. I would say though, at the moment, it definitely feels like Dark Passage are the ones getting the advantage here. Nasus may get zoned out because Draven Sona is freezing up top, but meanwhile, while that freezing is going on, this bottom tower is taking a lot of damage, and Mew is taking a lot more damage as well. Kubao's in potential trouble. They are going to clear out that ward there, and Nunu is in the area. This could be dangerous, especially if Elise goes back.
Yeah, indeed. They've basically locked the jungler into the bottom lane, and even 2 versus 2, they're trading off better anyway. Nunu comes down, turning that into a 3 versus 2. Make that a 3 versus 1. They could very well go for the dive here as they push this minion wave in. Elise has no option just to go back to the bot lane, but is it going to be in time? I think Mew knows what's up. He's just going to turn the corner, give the Blood Boil to Holy Phoenix, and try and seize this one out.
Yeah, they will take that tower though really, really quickly. Remember, if he wants to do it even faster, he can cast an ability, get the double hit, which does apply on towers. So, tower going down very, very quickly, and this is now forcing the top lane, but Crystal Meth taunts it.
Yeah, lands Shadow Dash onto 2 of these players and taking even more tower shots for his troubles. Holy Phoenix turns it around. Lightslinger passive comes into the action as they farm out the minion waves once again, but the tower is very, very low. Nunu is still there, and it's only a matter of time before we see something happen here.
It's interesting. He's hanging around in the area, but doesn't seem to actually want to do anything right now. He's just going to back away and be there to take his blue buff. That does make fairly good sense. He probably wants to go back just to get his health. Right now, though, looks like he is going to need to do so. Yeah, I wanted to talk quite a while ago now about the choice of gold item from Holy Thoth right now. Now, the interesting thing about the Relic Shield is not so much the mechanic that requires you to last hit minions yourself, actually, I believe. Just looking at my basic attacks. Yeah, execute minions below 263 health. Killing a minion heals nearest ally for 17. The interesting thing is what that builds into later on is going to mean that there's clearly going to be a lot of extra protection for the team of Dark Passage, which is really good for them because they are running 2 characters who are relatively squishy, especially Syndra from mid lane. Does not cope well with being jumped on in teamfights, and I'm sure you and I are both keeping an eye on Elise.
Indeed, keeping an eye also on the bot lane because Shen was sticking around for a long time. Kubas, he walks into the mid lane and Syndra just plays it fairly passively. I have to say, one of the things that occurred to me in the bot lane with the Relic Shield, though, Spuddington, is when you're pushing a push lane and you're trying to take the tower faster than your opponent. I'm still looking at top lanes. Fabulous goes with the initiation. Wither comes down. He's very low mana. Doesn't have even the mana for a Cycling Strike. Gets knocked aside from Draven. Crystal Meth comes in from the backside. Will not be utilizing the ultimate just yet. Fabulous, can he really follow up on this? The answer is probably going to be no, as the ultimate was used from Shen. He comes into the top lane, actually leaving his bot lane exposed. But the thing I wanted to talk about, Spuddington, about the Relic Shield, is that they can push minions even faster because it has the execute passive.
That is actually a genuinely important point in this scenario. We do have a pause coming in from Fabulous himself. Not entirely sure what the reason is. We have a guy's seriously frowny face coming in there from Elise, so don't know exactly what's up with this.
Yeah, it was happening quite a lot last time, and Dark Passage don't really announce what's happening. They just kind of pause the game and hope for the best. So that's why the opposing team of Avalanche really just don't know what's happening.
Well, fair enough. We are potentially in for a slightly longer break than we would normally want to, though, as Draven is informing us of exactly what he's doing. I don't know whether you can see the chat, but it could take a couple of minutes for him to perform certain functions. That does mean now that the resetting internet could be a little bit of time, so we've got some time, certainly, if we want to go into any in-depth points at this point. So, Pulse, is there anything really to you at the moment that's jumping out?
I'm still thinking about the support items, and you know, the fact that Dark Passage have noticed this thing about the Runic Shield this early makes me think there must be more combinations of items that would fit into clutch circumstances, because obviously going for double Relic Shield in a 2 versus 1 scenario when you're in a pushing war is such a good call. It's so good.
Yeah, it's a really clever usage of the items that's come out really, really early on. I mean, not normally something you would expect to see until, you know, at least a week or two in on it. But, I mean, it just highlights how important pushing and minion control is to the pro player mindset, as it were, because it wouldn't be as important in solo queue, but like this right now, really, really smart. And I'm assuming they did this last game pass because I didn't see it.
No, they didn't. That's what made it so amazing for me this time round. But yeah, it's very interesting indeed. And right now, I think in Season 4, I think what's going to be favouring a lot of teams is the ability to push harder. And builds like this, I think, will become quite common. Because already Ziggs is very good right now, not just because he can push incredibly hard, but many other factors. But he also has that as a byproduct. And then you're looking at other AD carries. Lucian pushes very hard. Nasus, in fact, does as well with Spirit Fire. Look at Shyvana. They have so many ways to push incredibly hard. And also with the way that turrets work, and your jungler wants to be in position so he gets the XP from that as well. We could see very more dynamic games and objective-focused games where you have really fast pushing and it's lane rotations which are more important than going for fights.
Yeah, a lot of strategy is what's going to start coming into it. And that's honestly, I mean, strategy is something that has obviously always been in League of Legends. It's something that's always been inherent in the competitive scene. But there is an extent to which you have to say there's rarely been, beyond like the playstyle you're going to go for, there's rarely been huge major decisions to make before the games. Yes, you'll be like, okay, we're building a team fight comp, okay, we're building a siege comp, but there's never been to this kind of degree of detail. Like, okay, we're going to go for double runic shield on this bot lane start for the fast push, and then we'll transition that into a fairly AD heavy build on Lucian to give him more poke, etc, etc, etc. CLG.eu, we may be starting actually now, which would be a lovely thing to have happen.
That looks like he's going to hold on.
Oh. Yeah, we have start.
Oh, no, okay,
this
maybe
troll.
not.
This
Indeed.
guy.
Gonna have a repeat of the Insomnia finals here, Swiddington. All the players getting up.
That was an awkward time. For those of you who are normal and don't know about this, way back when, at I-48, the Insomnia finals, myself and Paul's first live event on the big stage in front of a big crowd. We were all pumped, and then Pulse and Stress were like casting, and then they were doing the intro, and then 7 of the players went to the toilet.
Indeed. I'm not sure what they were doing there, honestly. That required them all to go at the same time. Indeed, that's one word for it. But we are still waiting on the pause, and it's interesting. I mean, he said my bad, so I was assuming that was the fact that he accidentally clicked pause, but maybe he has actually just gone away from his computer. We don't know!
Casters! The glamorous life of casting, waiting for other people to finish their business. It does seem at the moment, though, going back to the game itself right now, that Nasus, when it does come to it, is going to be allowed to farm his Q up, and that is a worrying sign for Avalanche, because if you think about it in terms of map pressure and pushing, Nasus, if he is able to start dueling Shen, will then be able to force 2 people to come and stop him. He is just that incredibly dangerous threat because of the fact that his high damage for a bruiser style that fits with his lifesteal means Shen cannot just grind him down by shielding away. But Naro could be the one in trouble, has been stunned.
Immediately hit by the cocoon, but CLG.eu, I actually think he's still AFK since he's not moving and did not react to the gank.
So, for the record, it was actually Avalanche's team that said ready, as in, are you ready to start? And Dark Passage were like, yes, we're ready, let's go. CLG.eu still not there, so apparently they may not have checked, I guess.
Elaborate mind games going on along with other things, and CLG.eu is finally back because he's actually talking in chat. Okay, now we're getting back into the game. Let's go with round 2, shall we, Elise?
Okay, now is he going to pretend he hasn't noticed it? It does look like Kuboas wanted to back out. Anyway, CLG.eu there, dodging the stun fairly narrowly.
Indeed, not really. In the mid lane, though, we do have the siege coming in. Again, they can execute. It took a while, but they can execute these minions very quickly just with a swift auto attack, which will actually increase their sieging significantly. I'm not even sure if you might just see multiple people on teams going for runic shield as a result of this. They're pushing so hard.
The 5 runic shield, 5 teleport build.
And they've gone for the engagement. CLG.eu going in for this. Lands the key burst onto 3 players. Disengage with tidal wave. Turns us around. Unleash power. Detonates Riven. Follow up as well with Lightslinger and the continued auto attacks. Stun down onto Sona. Huge crescendo comes in response. And Holy Phoenix picks up yet another kill.
This is really, really bad for them now. Avalanche being pushed back on that kill do have Shen in the area, but Nasus Fabulous is in the top lane. Actually looking a little bit scared though. I'm slightly confused because it seems like he's running away from just solo Draven. He's going to be able to take away those golems and start building up that farm. Team's going to take away Dragon. They weren't able to get another tower off it, but that Dragon will give them another advantage, and they are already starting to seriously get ahead as we have another disconnect.
Indeed, apparently we had a bug and we have the disconnect from Holy Phoenix, and hopefully should be reconnecting very shortly. Again, apologies for the delay, guys. There's very little we can do as casters, so we're going to have to just try and fill time. But, oh man, 5 runic shields. Like, how much does it cost? It's a pretty low investment item as well, and the execute scales. So, yeah, it does require you to, like, kind of share gold, but that shouldn't matter all that much.
Okay, so if you think about it in terms of like you put like the 5-man, like you remember the old 5-minute in here build, the one we saw way back in season 2, taking CLG.eu for everything they owned in like ranked 5, ended up losing to them because they farmed and came back in. But early pushing, remember, now actually would give you more gold than it used to if you were to take towers with all 5 of your members in one place. So if you had 5 runic shields, and almost instantly clearing waves because you could take an AoE champion to get them low enough for the execute, and then all 5 people attack all the minions. They would drop almost instantly. And say you had a pushing character, like say Heimerdinger, and you could use his turrets and you could use the teleports to make sure the minions were invulnerable. You could take 2-3 towers incredibly quickly. I mean, almost within like 2-3 minutes of the start, and then you wouldn't necessarily have to keep pushing. You just pull back and started to go back and farm. That could potentially work. I don't know. It's an interesting cheese thought.
Yeah, it requires analysis, but I'm sure these teams over the next coming days will kind of think about it themselves. But there's no real detriment to going runic shield either. I mean, obviously because you're not starting with different items, but you're not necessarily sharing the gold. I mean, I guess that's kind of the wrong word. You're getting gold. Everyone's getting gold, but if you're grouping up as 5 men, it's basically whoever's closest, I believe. It's weird, but back onto the game at hand.
Yes, indeed. Riven actually hanging over the wall from Naru. I thought for a second that she was going to like flash over and start making those very Riven kind of plays, trying to take Naru out and get the kill off of that. But we do have another pause, as has been mentioned, and I don't know what the problem is again.
Indeed. Maybe Riven, what she's going to do is make those Riven plays, but to jump over the wall, they'll pause, and then instantly she'll flash and then pause, and then she'll engage, so that they don't lose any time.
Okay, so what this is it's like if you want to do faker mechanics, right? Remember, okay, so you may have seen that video on YouTube. Don't taunt Faker, Faker Senpai, whatever it was, and that kind of showed how difficult it can actually be to execute Riven's mechanics really, really fast. You can cancel almost everything, almost all of her animations, with almost all of her other animations. And that makes it a real mess trying to organize in your head what order you want to do them in, and to do them really, really fast and execute them correctly. So if you were to pause it between each individual thing, pro strats.
Crazy mechanics, indeed. Kind of reminds me of Super Smash Bros. But in the mid lane, Pink has come down. Maybe they are looking to go with these funky mechanics. Broken Wings, 1 second left on that cooldown, and converging from the opposite side will be Elise. In the bot lane, though, strong 3-man push comes out. Pink has still come down. They're still looking for this. Keybus comes out, and the Broken Wings knocks him back, CCs him down. Flash over the wall, and he's just buying time for his bottom lane to push as hard as they can. But in the top lane, Nasus' tower has been taken out.
Yeah, so that's going to give them that little bit of an edge now. They have got a little bit of extra gold, but 69 extra damage on Nasus Q. Not too special at the moment, but now this is the time when the tower has gone down. He's going to find it much easier to farm. Actually, maybe not if they're going to go back up there and zone him out 2-on-1. But that commitment, of course, means 3-man push in the bottom lane is not going to stop anytime soon.
Yeah, Avalanche is going to have to do something about this, at least at some point in the near future. They can't just keep ignoring the threat that is eventually going to take their inhibitor turret. They're pushing down the mid lane in response, but that's still an outer turret. They have to commit someone to go back. Syndra comes back in as well. She'll also apply some pressure. In fact, the fallback ping has come out. There's a saying, concede the turret, man. It doesn't even matter. And now the recall comes in.
Yeah, they have to respond to this at this point. They cannot afford to lose this kind of tower this early on, but it's taking significant damage, and Mew is playing with fire by going so close to them. Riven heading down there, and it does look like Dark Passage are going to back off. Nasus freezing in the top lane, so they're probably not going to actually look to take much from the fact they forced Avalanche back to stop that in-hit push, but they are now free to at least put down some wards and recall themselves.
Yeah, indeed. And Crystal Meth does what he does best, and is just going through the jungle, stealing things. And CLG.eu jumps into a Nunu, see if they can get the stun here. Lancer Cocoon as well. He is incredibly tanky, but not if he gets continuously stun locked. Is Syndra close enough to really react to this? He's being slowed, but so is Cubius. Backing off, auto attacks come down, and the Windslash picks up the kill.
I have to question why he didn't eat a Spiderling, but I don't think it really would have saved him, all things considered. It would have been funnier, though. But that does give Avalanche now this opportunity to push down the mid lane, because Nasus is still freezing in the top lane. Building up the Q stacks, yes, but you can't afford to sacrifice too much gold, too much map pressure in order to do that. He may need to start using his Spirit Fire, and if Holy Phoenix had been caught there, this could get bad for them. The culling will slow them down, though.
Yeah, significantly. Already taking down the minion wave, and Naru also pushing them back. They have a very good team for carrying out these minion waves. Yes, it's kind of reliant on Lucian's ultimate, but as soon as Nasus gets to the team, Spirit Fire comes down, Syndra's there, and goodbye minion wave.
Yeah, there is no teleport available for Nasus right now, so if the fight did kick off, though, well, at least if it had kicked off at that tower before, it would have potentially been problematic for them. But he may need to return to that bottom lane or start counter-pushing against Shen in that by pushing out the top lane. He isn't moving, though. Nope, he's recalling. Okay.
he was just thinking about and making an informed decision. Sona coming in from the side has the crescendo. Crystal Meth also there, but with the teleport being available to Nasus, in fact he's going to teleport down bot lane. They're going to notice this. This might be the cue for an engagement. They are aggressing onto that team in the mid lane, but they are very fast, especially with Blood Boil.
It definitely feels, though, that with Fabulous going for this very, very heavy farming style, Dark Passage are now playing for the late game. They know they can afford to let a couple of towers go, maybe a couple of objectives here and there, because they've got good ward control and they know they have a very good siege counter style. That means Fabulous is free to farm this Q, and at this rate it's going to get very scary very fast. Remember when we last checked, maybe 5 minutes ago, it was on about 60 damage. Now 159 bonus damage, and only getting stronger as time goes on. He's probably good to deal with Shen already.
Yeah, and Pussy's got the 5 points into the queue, and he's also got cooldown reduction. He's basically just going to sit in this lane, and Shen really can't do much to push him out either. Remember, back to Champion Select, Swellington, we were saying, if they do get to late game, Nasus is going to be a serious issue. In fact, the entire team and the way this game has gone, especially just with their picks alone, is really going to hurt them. Draven, he's looking for the early game, and already it looks like Nasus has reached that stage where he will just one-on-one you. Sona coming down. Will it be enough to 2 versus 1 in this scenario? It looks like it will be followed. They haven't chained their stuns together, though. He's going to flash out, and now the rest of the team, the cavalry has arrived. Roll, though, he does enough damage to take down Nasus, but surely Shen will fall in return along with the Sona. At least power comes down. 1, the second kill comes out. Cocoon does not connect. 3 versus 2. Crystal Meth will look to try and get someone down, and Riven cannot really react either way. Will eventually connect. Knocks up Finite. Crystal Meth is still there, slows him down, taking a lot of damage in return. In fact, the ultimate, the Whirling Death, comes out, locked up with the bubble, and the return damage. He has been exhausted. Flash over the wall. Another flash from Elise. Venomous Bite comes down. Auto attack into human form. Picks up another kill.
Yeah, this may not be over yet, though. They're gonna go for the dive, and Holy Thoth has not started his recall.
Indeed, we have Riven finally coming back from the top jungle. Bubble comes out, whiffs, flash comes down, back to turret, and Nunu already gets out, but that is an exposed dragon.
Yes, it is, but this top tower is going to be pushed down by Holy Phoenix as fast as he possibly can. Shen will respond. They also have Nasus, whose ultimate is not too far off, but will not be up to contest that dragon. So Maybe unfortunate for Dark Passage, but Mew can't really kill Holy Phoenix, surely.
Yeah, he's giving it a good shot, but it's mainly just to try and clear the minions at the same time. Holy Phoenix going so aggressive. Tank to a tower shot. This is going to go down to the wire. Barrier has been popped before he gets taunted. Auto attack comes out, cut the vision, and picks up the kill in a slick one-on-one.
Very smart barrier bait there, just not what Shen was ready for. And because it was such an aggressive play that surprised Shen, he didn't have time to think, wait, why is he going for this? As it was, though, Kubawas could be in trouble. Stun didn't land though, so doesn't actually happen. But had that ult followed up with the stun, probably would have been a dead lead.
Yeah, Kubawas, well, just getting out with his life. But again, Unleashed Power does a lot of damage at this stage in the game. Honestly, do we see Dark Passage playing this too aggressively? Honestly, they're still ahead. It hasn't really mattered to them, but they know that Avalanche are against the clock, so they can just play it conservatively. They don't necessarily need to go for these big plays. They just need Nasus just to carry on farming.
Indeed they do. He is 117 CS to the 85 of Shen. Fortunate in many ways that Shen has not picked up too many kills, or he might have some problem. At the moment though, he hasn't got a lot of vision control. He's pushing quite aggressively, but regardless of what else is happening, his Q stacks are increasing. 216 bonus damage now. That's starting to get to a dangerous point. That's starting to get to the point a really quite strong jungle Nasus might be at this stage. This is getting alarming, and it does look like they may look to try and take something while he's committed at bot, but hard to do. Avalanche don't have an easy engage.
Yeah, what is Avalanche's play right here? They have to go for the engagements, and they have to commit someone to Nasus. That person will be Shen. Drag him too far away from his turret though, he'll 1v1 him. Meanwhile in mid, they have to try and connect with them, but the disengage from this team is so incredibly strong. Scatter Weak by itself is incredibly good, but they also have Nunu. He's got the Blood Boil and also Nami for the tidal wave. Unless they go all in and kill them before that happens, they're not going to pick up the kill. Fabulous has realized that Riven is reacting to him. Will he pop the ultimate? The answer is a yes. He goes for the 2v1 trade. Spiritfire comes in. He is just trying to buy time for his team if they can go for the engage themselves in the mid lane. But he is still running away. Eventually he'll catch up. CLG.eu picks up the kill. And actually, Lucian went up to the top lane.
Yeah, that was the reason Riven was able to roam down in the first place. And again, it was a slight failure of map awareness there by Fabulous, getting himself caught out. Riven was gone, missing from the mid lane for easily long enough for him to think, this may be a dangerous spot, but as it happens, that's going to keep them in somewhat at this point. Shen in the bottom lane, low on health, but there's no one really to stop him pushing right now. Dark Passage needs to commit at least these 4 people just to stop the push in mid.
It's not going to be an issue because Nasus is live and Teleport is up as well, so depends how fast Shen pushes and how much they value that turret. In fact, Nunu's heading down and they can conserve that Teleport, which is quite important indeed. Nunu comes there and probably won't be killing Shen, but will be stopping him from taking the turret regardless.
He may have stopped them from taking it in the immediate term. Naro actually potentially was looking for someone there, very close to actually blindly predicting exactly the right place, but they will be able to hold on to that turret because a nice rotation from Dark Passage predicting the path of their opponent.
Indeed, and the recall comes in from Crystal Meth, but the stack comes in from the bot lane. Coming in from Avalanche, meanwhile on the top lane, Riven is pushing away, and Nasus has decided to find his new home in mid lane.
Enemy farming up that Q, something he may have done a little of already. He is now starting to actually push out a little bit in addition. He's not freezing it. So, there will be a slightly greater amount of map pressure exerted by him as a result. And one thing I would like to note is that while Dark Passage has been farming up Nasus, they have actually managed to maintain their gold lead, roughly as at the same level that it was. So proportionally it's decreased, but Fabulous has become a much bigger threat in that time.
Yeah, however, CLG.eu was still doing pretty well for himself. He's got a huge stack in terms of how much gold he has proportionally compared to the rest of his team, and as long as they can keep Riven rolling, they have a big enough threat within at least small skirmishes to challenge the team of Dark Passage before Nasus becomes a threat. However, the further this game goes on, and as passively as Avalanche are playing it, they're just going to get outscaled. So it's all about trying to find a perfect opportunity. But when you're behind like this, it's just an uphill struggle, and those opportunities, it's very difficult to find them.
Yes, indeed. And it's just something that Dark Passage clearly planned around. They may be finding Roldo, though.
Geraldo gets caught hit by Scatter the Weak. The Crescendo used defensively just for himself. That's a big ultimate to go down with nothing in return.
Yes, indeed. And Syndra's stun won't be up for another, well, what, 3 seconds or so. Crescendo, minute and 20, minute and 30, something like that. It's a very, very long cooldown, and it's the whole reason to pick Sona, really. So, that does mean now that if Dark Passage can find someone, they can make a play. But even if they don't, they're okay with that too.
Indeed, and Nasus is becoming a threat in the top lane. They go for the engagement in the mid lane. The Zhonya's comes out. CLG.eu collapses in the meanwhile, along with Away from the side. Whirling Death comes out. They pick up one as well. But Holy Phoenix, he's got the kite on. Teleport comes in. Nasus has arrived in the scene. Teleport, as we just said, has come in along with the Wither. Finally, Shen has come in from the bot lane. CLG.eu is incredibly low. Also gets seen by the Vision. He did not manage to cut that one out. Mew is still chasing down the back line. But Fabulous, he does have the blue buff, but he's barely out of mana. He's still doing huge amounts of damage to Draven, who gets knocked up with the bubble. Holy Frost should surely fall in return. But Holy Phoenix has returned from taking out his last objective and will return and pick up the kill onto Elise as well.
I actually have to question Fabulous bothering to teleport, though. Crystal Meth is going to keep this chase going on Mew, and Holy Phoenix should be able to pick that up shortly. If at all. Okay, maybe not actually. But I actually slightly have to question, as I say, that decision there from Fabulous to teleport down, because he was already pushed up to that inner tower, and in the amount of time that fight continued on for, Dark Passage could have disengaged, not completely cleanly, but he could have easily started threatening that inner tower, definitely, because he could take them down very, very quickly, and then the inhibitor tower as well. So maybe it's just me, but I would actually have to say that potentially getting kited around a little bit in that fight was a slightly less than totally efficient usage of his time.
Yeah, I agree completely. The biggest annoyance about Nasus is he will eventually get stronger and stronger and stronger, so that more and more people need to be committed to him, and he just sits in the top lane or a different lane and just becomes that split pushing threat. That's the biggest scary thing about Nasus, and he just gets to the stage where he 1v5s a team. That's also scary. But he's not quite at that stage yet, Spuddington, and it was a questionable call, but again, heat in the moment, and plus hindsight 2020, not something that you can make in all situations. But still, teleport is down, and he just returns into the top lane, so nothing really lost.
Yeah, it's not like it was a bad call, it's just that potentially there could have been a better call. And right now, he's actually in this top lane, once again, kind of just farming his Q at max speed, actually now using Spirit Fire. So that is the sign that Nasus actually wants to push, is that he farms the Q regardless, but he does use Spirit Fire when he's pushing.
Avalanche is always looking for the opportunity to go for the engagement, and they still are against the clock. Again, do have Mew coming in from the bot lane, and this could get really messy for Dark Passage, as again the pressure has been exerted by Nasus in the top lane, jumping onto that back line. Holy Phoenix gets locked up. There's very little Holy Froth can do, but he's still alive. Culling finally comes out, and he will eventually drop. Crystal Meth looking to back off, gets locked down by Mew, also locked up with a double bubble, but still, Finite picks him up with a spinning axe. They have committed 5 people in the mid lane, and Nasus is continuing to push.
Yes, he's taken 1 tower, which will roughly equalize the gold gap between the kills of that fight, and the map pressure is something that he will be quite happy to have as well. So, Fabulous takes towers, moves away, and be going over to the blue buff, I would suspect, to try and take that away, and it just means that Nasus getting even more farmed up. 372 bonus damage on his Q now, putting out the ward to see Riven when she comes. Will she try and fight? That's the question.
Yeah, see who can pick up this blue buff. It will be Riven, turning this one around. Oh god, the Siphoning Strike already chunked her down by at least about a quarter of her HP. That's pretty scary.
Yeah, and remember, ladies and gentlemen, this is a Nasus who has not built a Sheen item. He has not built an Iceborne Gauntlet, not a Triforce, not a single point of AD is coming from his items. It's all base damages and that Siphoning Strike bonus damage. I am also a fan of pretty much the exact build Fabulous is building. Your core item is basically Spirit Visage and Frozen Heart because it gives you 40% CDR. And the problem with building stuff like a Trinity Force is that yes, it gives you more damage, but it slows down your Q farm, which means you get less damage in the long run. So it's a super, super scary build from Fabulous. And now, looks like he wants to join up with the team. Does he need to, though?
Yeah, that's the question. I mean, it will stop, basically, Avalanche being able to ever really initiate on them, because they can't 5-on-5 them, surely. Shoot just comes in with the harassment more than anything. Monk Dark Passage on the defensive, mainly because Lucian's picking up the red buff, and I think CLG.eu has recognized that, but as they come to support him, that shouldn't be an issue. 5-on-5, though, with Nasus there, they might be able to kite him away. This is a potentially advantageous position, especially if they can nuke him down before he gets his ultimate off. Repel comes down, along with the AoE wombo combo from both of these teams. Cristiano comes across, lands onto True. The Whirling Death comes through. He's still on the back lines. The AD carries are in good shape. CLG.eu is still in the middle of 5 people. His team unable to really react. Double kill comes in for Lucian, and now it's the cleanup time. Snowball has landed onto Roldo, and it doesn't look he's gonna get out of this situation. Force of Will comes through from Naru, picks up another kill, and Crystal Meth goes even further. Ignite comes out, they pick up another kill in response, but now the middle turret and Nasus is still alive, so they'll have the Siphoning Strike damage as well.
Yeah, now watch this tower as it goes away. Scary. Don't know if I've ever mentioned that before, but Nasus right now is destroying towers. The rest of the team is there as well, with AD carry and AP carry intact, so that is going to be an inhibitor unless Elise and somehow Draven could really stop this. I just don't think they can.
But they've also caught Fabulous again, and they just well away at him. He is so goddamn tanky, though. He could have probably just carried on wailing on at the inhibitor, and he could have taken it. He is the Sillet buying of League of Legends.
But you what?
And Holy Foff has been caught out by Cubeas. Also gets the bubble. He flashes through it, looking for that Venomous Bite. 1 second cooldown left on that. Still, the auto attacks come down. Can Crystal Meth come back in time? The answer is a yes, as he snowballs Elise.
Yeah, and that's actually Holy Thoth's build there, keeping him alive. You can actually notice he's got a Mikhail's Crucible, which he used on Nasus in the last fight. This is going to be a Baron attempt, but I have to question the wisdom of it. With Crystal Meth, Nunu jungle in this game. He doesn't have flash though, so it may be a little bit difficult for him to jump in. They've got a lot of damage, they're going to throw it over the wall.
Yeah, Culling coming through, but as soon as he gets anywhere near that, it will be Crystal Meth being outsmited though. Has to use the ultimate. The teleport comes in from Nasus. They have to retreat out of this one, but they've already picked up the kill. This is a 4 versus 5. CLG.eu jumps out of the Baron pit, and the chase comes in from Fabulous. He can't quite connect with anyone, and Mew might be just sacrificing himself as CLG.eu comes in once again, picks up the kill onto Lucien. Can Fabulous do enough? He is so strong. Stand United comes out, and on the Unleash power doesn't quite finish off Shen either. Double kill comes in for CLG.eu. This is the perfect type of team fight for him, as Nari is trying to cut item away. Stand aside comes in, and another kill comes out. Fabulous on full HP, but his ultimate has already been exhausted. 4 versus 1. I don't even think Nasus can make his way out of this fight.
No, indeed. And I have to say, that was... Okay, so initially that was a Baron call that was really smart by Avalanche, taking it off the back essentially of Nasus being caught at that inhibitor area. Maybe with Nunu with flash up, that would have been a bad call for the Baron, but as they knew it wasn't, they were able to make that happen. They were able to focus down Crystal Meth as that fight started, and Nasus is being caught in these situations where he's just being kited a lot over and over again. It's really working against him at the moment, and maybe he just needs to get back to his roots and just get back to Q farming and split pushing at the same time. That would be my 2 cents, but I don't know for certain if they're actually now going to be able to hold off in a 4-on-5.
Well, Nasus was forced into that team fight as a result of Avalanche aggressing onto Baron, and his only other option was to teleport bot lane, which he could have done, but it was a team fight they could have potentially fought, especially if they had turned around thinking, well, we've got Baron, we can 5 versus 4 them, and as it turned out, it was not the right call, but he was forced into doing that. Maybe the call before that, when he decided to group up with his team, maybe those are the type of opportunities he should be using to split push, and he should go back to that. He's built around it, he's gone for the distortion boot, but he's not quite able to execute it at the right times.
Yes, indeed, and worth noting that ward that just wore out next to the inhibitor, he could have potentially gone to that when the Baron fight was going on and taken the inhibitor, which arguably would not have been worth it, but would have also arguably been worth it just on the ground, so it would give them that map pressure advantage. But we do now have a little bit of a ward fight going on. Don't think that's going to go one way or the other, really. So it does actually look like now is the time for Avalanche to make plays.
Yep, and CLG.eu is there once again, but he can't really afford to get picked. Unleashed power comes through. Lots of shielding, though. Also, the tidal wave lands onto Roldo. They're turning this one around. Crystal Meth has already been disrupted. Huge crescendo onto 3 players. Easily going to turn this one around as Willing Death comes through from Draven. Lucian all the way on the back lines. Fabulous is slowly being ground down despite how tanky he is, and they will be able to dive past this turret. Shen leading that charge, even though they're on very low HP. Roldo just balling it out, pushing so far forward. Holy Phoenix does punish him in return, and they are underneath their turret. Could it be the cleanup time? CLG.eu plays it perfectly. Hits a 1 onto Lucian, moves on to Holy Froth. They pick up another, and a good 4-for-2 trade.
And now it just seems like they've completely lost their grip on this game. Dark Passage being forced back again and again and again. Nasus not able to exert any map pressure. They're losing their inhibitor over this, almost certainly with Syndra unable to stop the push. CLG.eu is catching people left, right, and center. And Crystal Meth, he's kind of looking like he wants this, but is he tanky enough?
He's Nunu. He doesn't really exert damage. He's just really annoying. And that's what he's looking to do here. If they can get a catch onto someone who gets separated from the herd, that's what they're going to try and attempt to do onto CLG.eu. But he does do huge amounts of damage in return. They have to be careful with his commitments, and instead they will back off.
Yeah, and now the question becomes, what is the play from Dark Passage? They had a stranglehold on the game, and now it seems like they've just completely lost that momentum. So they need to do something to get it back. There are no major objectives on the board apart from the towers, obviously, to force Fabulous to stop split pushing essentially. So now, can Dark Passage hold off a 4v5 with Fabulous pushing down that bottom lane? Remember, since the patch came in, other lanes will not push harder than normal. So assuming Fabulous goes bottom, holds off the super minions himself, and obviously farms up his Q while he's at it, and exerts some split pushing pressure and has that teleport, can they make that work for them?
It's going to have to be the option right here, Spuddington, because Fabulous just cannot continue to go for team fights. That's not where Nasus' strength lies at this stage in the game. The Colling doing surprising amounts of damage. Is not the Pea Shooter at this stage in the game. Picks up the kill onto 1. All the damage in return onto Riven. The double kill comes in for Holy Phoenix. The slick mechanics. I'm not sure if he can go further than that. Repel comes down, looking to get the cocoon onto Holy Phoenix. In fact, he does do so, and the barrier comes out. CC'd to all hell and heaven and gets the kill in return, but 1-for-2 trade. Very nice from Holy Phoenix.
I have to say, I feel like maybe he got 1 or 2 unfair crits there. I don't know where that burst damage came from.
He's pretty well built at the moment. He's got 4 items and also the Berserker's Greaves. You might be right when it comes to those lucky crits. He did chunk down Elise, in fact, Riven from 100% to like 30% in 2 auto attacks. So, maybe random number generated a little bit, but even so, impressive play.
Yeah, his kiting was absolutely perfect there, and that was really, really fun to watch. I would say, though, Fabulous has again made a slightly odd call. While Lucian was dying in that top lane, having already taken the 2 kills, Fabulous made the call to teleport up there, but he was a little bit far away, wasn't able to get there to help the fight. And as a result, he just ended up kind of teleporting up and then standing around awkwardly for a little while. Now he doesn't have that teleport, which obviously means that someone, well, obviously they're going to have to respond to that bottom lane inhibitor pressure with either someone else or a much more cautious Nasus who will have to be able to be ready to react to the rest of the enemies pushing.
It just feels like Nasus and Fabulous is just not playing selfishly enough. He's always trying to help the team, which always ends up backfiring. At some point, he just needs to just sit in the lane and just push it. If someone's doing something else elsewhere, he just needs to tunnel vision and just go through the lane. It seems like a very odd thing to do, especially in League of Legends, but this is one of those odd times, Buddington, where that's the right play.
Yeah, because no one can duel him. No one. Riven cannot. She is very, very fair, maybe, but she cannot duel him. Draven cannot duel him. Does have a Quicksilver Sash, actually. Maybe Draven could if he got a few crits there. I'm not 100% on that, but I don't think he could kill Fabulous, so he certainly could continue to apply pressure there. So it's just one of these situations where I don't know what the right call is, but it definitely feels like you're right. Crystal Meth was thinking about the Empire, but decided against it.
Indeed. Well, he does do a lot of damage, but he's not level 16 just yet, and he's not really been itemizing AP either. The problem is the super minions are barrowing down the bottom lane. They're going to have to commit someone too, and it will be Naru. That could be the potential commitment onto the Baron as well. They've lost their AP carry, and they're going to realize that. Nasus is unable to go to the bot lane because he does not possess teleport, because of what you mentioned before, Spuddington, and this is a clear, easy call from the team of Avalanche, but are they strong enough though? Griffin's heading around the side, potentially to get themselves a pick, but they just need to make sure they don't get engaged upon at the same time as Baron is dropping very quickly, trying to delay that Nunu. Looks like Baron's just going to fall down.
Yeah, and they may look to get another engage off the back of it.
A counter engage comes in the form of Tidal Wave, but Syndra's still at base. 4 versus 5. The Whirling Death comes through. Again, the counter engage, or the disengage, I should say, is so superior, and they will back off to their turret, but as a result, Baron has come down, and the siege is not half bad.
No, indeed, and now Dark Passage have to be very careful, because almost certainly it can be guessed that Nasus has gone back right now. If they wanted to go for a dive, this would be the time. Looks like that won't actually happen. Dark Passage are going to be okay for now. They do still have really fantastic wave clear. The blue ping comes down on the open inhibitor, and I think we can guess where the next point of contention is going to be.
Yeah, they're definitely ahead right now, and if they're going to take an advantage with Baron, it needs to be something more than the dragon, and the bottom inhibitor looks very good indeed. Nasus will be sitting right there, and now he has the teleport. I was going to say, well, if they can keep them just in one lane, Nasus can potentially make that play where he just abducts the minion line if they have the wards in the right places. But the unfortunate thing is they have that inhibitor tower down and makes that play less viable. So Nasus, he's still farming away, but now we're at the stage where Avalanche have pushed so far up into their jungle that essentially they can collapse on Nasus before his team can do anything else with it.
Yeah, that just makes it a little bit more difficult. And we actually also have Holy Phoenix in the top lane, only 3 men mid. This is a 4-5 man push coming in towards the tower. They do have Syndra there. That will give them some wave clear, but I'm a little bit confused as to what is going on here. It does actually look like they will be able to hold on for long enough though.
Yeah, they've got the disengage but don't have the wave clear. Now Fabulous is here and along with Lucian, but the tower, honestly, at this stage, if they go for a clean engage, isn't going to matter all that much because Shen is so tanky. 3k HP and a ton of armor to boot, 233 in fact. However, top lane is pushing very aggressively. Shen will be committed to that, realizing that even at this stage, Nasus could completely wreck a turret.
So even though Avalanche have actually won multiple fights in a row now, they have taken quite significant numbers of objectives in their favor because Dark Passage were ahead early on, and because they have such good counter-pushing and counter-engaging, they're still very much in this game. The Baron buff is 2/3 done, and once that's gone, it's going to be a much more even kind of footing again, and I'd like to see Dark Passage starting to play a little bit more carefully. Naru.
Indeed, already flashing out. Windslash will be duped with Zhonya's. Can his team react in time? The answer is going to be a resounding no. And now they go for the engagement elsewhere as well, knowing that Nunu had already gone down. Colin comes out, and Holy Froth backs off. They are good to go. However, the Cocoon has landed. Fabulous is already there. The Siphoning Strike is doing a lot of damage. And Draven has also entered the battle, but Chuyu on the backlines, he's got that huge, enormous shield, not only from himself, but also from the Stand United. He's a tank in his own right, diving into their base. They don't need to fear anything from these turrets, but they can't quite get to them. The counter engage is so incredibly good. They're disengaged, and now they just back on off. Finite is taking a lot of damage, but the inhibitor is wide open.
Yeah, the last-ditch attack there with the Baron still up. We have actually got a disconnect once again, ladies and gentlemen. So, unfortunate, considering we actually had managed to go for a decent length of time there without one. Disconnect has come in, though.
Had you forgotten about those disconnects? Well, here, have another one. So, indeed, right in the action. But either way, Spuddington, it's such a difficult game for Dark Passage. They were so incredibly far ahead, and we've mentioned this so many times, but we have to look at the present, and yes, they can team fight, but their biggest issue is Nunu doesn't offer all that much to a team fight right now. Nasus is getting kited. Those are 2 big issues. He can't split push because they are so far behind, and they are pushing into their base. So, what is their play?
At this point, the inhibitor is down. they can use Nasus as like this is exactly what we suggested the last time the inhibitor went down and Avalanche had a Baron buff and didn't know what to do with it essentially. Nasus can solo defend that bottom lane. He can stop all the minions. He's got enough lifesteal. He's way too tanky, and he'll build up some Q stacks while he's doing it. He will, in fact, push the lane forward slowly, admittedly, but he will do it. So that is a very much a viable option for him to be there. It's just that last time this happened, that fight at the top lane where Holy Phoenix, you got that double kill, essentially, for his own life, which was completely worthwhile, caused Fabulous to waste that teleport, and as a result, he wasn't actually in the right place. If the rest of the team are able to just play very defensively and keep, just that the waves pushed back and avoid getting dived and bursted, then they can defend. They can wait for the Baron to go. They can then start to apply split pushing pressure with Fabulous, but thus far they've just not been finding the opportunities, and like you say, Fabulous just doesn't feel like he's playing selfishly enough.
Yeah, not quite optimal, and that's really hurting him. The late game security in Nasus is really just falling through. Draven is still doing well for himself, but in the team fights, they do have very good peel for Holy Phoenix, who is incidentally dead, and it will be dead for another 44 seconds. So we have to look at this game and what's happening right now. Is it possible for them to finish? The wave clear is okay, but if they get the right dive off, I mean, Nasus, I can't actually tell if he has his ultimate or not because we're on the pause. I think he does. I'm pretty sure he does. Yeah. So it's a question of can they end it here?
I have to say there's a very serious possibility of it right now. So with 5 men up, Elise is actually coming in. You can see it on the minimap coming via the mid lane. There is that really serious potential for them to go for it because Nasus, yes, he does a lot of damage in proportion to most bruisers, but he doesn't have the damage to chunk through someone like Shen, and Finite does have the damage to chunk through Fabulous. That means that if they choose to go for a dive and they lead it in with the Shen taunt, with the crescendo follow-up if that's available, which it probably isn't actually, so it doesn't matter, but they can lock him down, at least for long enough to kill him, and if not, to force him to retreat while they take the towers. That means that there's a lot of work to be done by Nami and Nunu, but they just do not have any real threat to the 5 members that will be running down there next, and that is just difficult to deal with. I actually have to say, in a way, now that I think about it, would it be worth Fabulous teleporting to one of the minions that's currently being hit?
Yeah, I was thinking about that myself. Possibly. It would definitely stall them, but again, it never seems like Fabulous is using his teleport efficiently. It's never quite used at the right times, and it would just be utilizing another teleport, but they've backed themselves into a corner where essentially the teleport has to be used in those less favorable circumstances, which is a shame, honestly, because it had so much potential with the distortion boots. And it's just essentially waiting until we see what happens with another DC on the board, Splittington. But it's very likely this could go to the 3rd and final game. And if it continues like this could be a very long night.
It could indeed. But it would only be one game. And I mean, really, what is a 40-minute game with 25 minutes of pause time added onto it? It's a long time. That does mean, though, if we do go on to this game 3, what are Dark Passage going to be doing with their team composition? Because to my mind, I felt like they got the better of this. Woof woof. I'm actually that makes me sound very strange. If you couldn't hear my dog over my microphone there, could you?
I could, but I'm not sure if it was noticeable to everyone. It was quite faint.
I did. Just
relevant because Nasus. It's fine.
Yes, you're right. But yeah, so I actually felt like Dark Passage actually got the better of the picks and bans. They had loads of damage on their 3 other characters, which is why those 2 those very low damage supports worked for them. But they just kept making really dodgy calls, to be honest.
Indeed, and well, we've seen Dark Passage actually make the very good team movements in the previous game, and something that they're very good at doing, and some people were mentioning that, myself and Metas, that they're very good because they've had more time together. They have that natural team synergy, whereas Avalanche, very new team, and we've seen all of these players on their own, and individually they are very mechanically skilled, but as a team, they're still operating really just as a bunch of solo queue players, but that still means that Dark Patches are crumbling.
Yeah, but again, like you said, yes, Dark Passage have a lot of experience together. They've been together for ages and ages and ages, but they aren't making calls that this game are quite as coordinated as we would normally expect from them. This game, I hate to put so much focus on him, but it feels to me like it's fabulous with his teleport plays. He doesn't seem to have made much use of it. He got caught multiple times when he was pushing the bot lane when they were ahead, and then he made a seriously interesting couple of decisions to teleport into fights where he could have just taken a bunch of buildings in return and trusted his team to just disengage and back away. That's my 2 cents, again, but I feel like a lot of the problems Dark Passage are facing this game are on his shoulders.
Indeed, but he is also one of the players who can completely turn this game, so it really is just revolving around that Nasus pick, and there's something we have been discussing at great length as a result of a certain delay in the game. So let's take a look at some of the item builds, which is something we haven't really looked at because they're being fairly conventional, apart from the pickups we saw originally from the support. So Sona has actually opted for the Frost Queen's Claim, which chills target enemy champions and all nearby enemies, dealing 50 magic damage and reducing movement speed by 50%. So again, that's another gold item, and supports can only pick up one. So again, the support items, they will be picking up more. But what do you think of the impact in these team fights? Because it's been so aggressive, and we've seen lots of big plays, obviously the big playmaking ultimates. But do you think that this shift in items has made supports more relevant, or are they just kind of still too gimmicky as items?
I feel like they definitely have a larger influence. Certainly, at the very, very least, we can say right now, supports are having more items to play with. So even if these items weren't functioning in the way we were expecting and making the supports more influential, it wouldn't be that hard to adjust what the items do to make that happen for Riot. So I think it's certainly a success on that level. As of right now, the items, to my mind, it's not so much the gold items themselves that are doing the amazing stuff. It's the fact that you can get that gold item, have that important active, which is, strong, but something you might have already gotten. So, for instance, you used to see Sightstone, Shirelia's Reverie as like a final build. The thing that's really getting interesting, though, is because they are able to itemize for Mikhail's Crucible, you can actually see both of the supports of this game, mana-heavy supports, effectively with that Chalice influence. That means there is a lot more healing in this game. That also means they have been able to use that active to cleanse characters. Now, you can actually see that it also restores a quite significant amount of health. Dog, really. I'm sorry.
Honestly, that's the most interesting thing that could happen at this point in time, Spuddington, so I'm sure it's fine.
It's fine. There's only 13 minutes left on the delay timer at this point. Anyway, but I just wanted to note the Mikhail's Crucible pickup is a really, really influential one, especially when you have big, beefy bruisers like Nasus.
Yeah, even your dog is getting bored at this delay, Spuddington. And
how terrible.
Wants the game to carry on. So we actually have no knowledge from either of these teams exactly what's happening. No one's communicating. No one's told us exactly what's happening. But we've got 12 minutes left, Spuddington, so you know what that means. At some point in the future, this game will be resuming, even if they don't want it to.
Yeah, there is literally no option available to all the players in the games, the admins, etc., etc., etc. There is no way out of that. Dog has entered the room, and I didn't even open the door, dog. I guess we are kind of running out of things to talk about at this point, so I should probably mention for you, ladies and gentlemen, there is a giveaway today. There is a Logitech G300 gaming mouse on offer. If you want to enter that contest, do feel free to enter !giveaway into our Twitch chat, and Nightbot will supply you with the links. You only need to do it once or twice, but I imagine we will be flooded with spam anyway, so doesn't really matter either way on that front. Pulse, is there anything you want to plug?
I guess we could just plug our social medias at this point. Spuddington, your own social media, where can they find you?
My social media, oh, my favorite topic. You can follow me on Twitter, which is twitter.com/Spuddington, @Spuddington. Facebook.com/SpuddingtonCasts is my other piece of social media, and Doug now wants to go out. Pulse, how about your social media?
I am @Impulsible, and also my Facebook is facebook.com/whatsyourpulse, and the links will appear in chat when we're not being kind of spammed to all hell because of the giveaway. But at the moment, again, very little to talk about because literally nothing has happened. Buddington, are you back after removing a dog from your room?
Well, we've kind of run out of things to talk about in terms of the game at this point. There is a couple of minor things, stuff like the fact that the Frost Queen's claim actually does offer an interesting counter almost to Nasus, because his weakness is being kited, and that is a free slow essentially, which you would not normally have to contend with as Nasus there. But I still. Yeah, there really isn't a lot to say.
Indeed. You know what time it is? It's question time. So, guys in chat, if you would like to ask us any questions, if you would like to follow us on Twitter and also tweet at us, because I've just realised the giveaway spam is also still there. That will not actually happen. So if you go ahead and tweet at us, I'm @Impossible, Spuddington is @Spuddington. Again, links in chat will be appearing. Then tweet at us, give us a question, and we will do our best to answer it. But that's our essential call for the next couple of minutes, or at least 9 minutes and 47 seconds. Oh, someone's calling ready, question mark. Will they respond? Tense times.
Excitement in progress. Right now, this sound you can't hear, that's hype. Go, says Dark Passage. So, we may be seeing the very final few moments of this game. As we've discussed earlier on, it definitely looks like it could end on this push. Finite has the damage and Mew has the tankiness. Will they be able to defend Dark Passage? Here we go.
It's all gonna kick off, and they will be aggressing. Also, CLG.eu going very aggressively into their Nexus turret. Ultimate has been popped, and the Mew going straight onto the back lines. Free man defense, but they are incredibly tanky. But they are still taking down their Nexus turret. CLG.eu has been forced back and indeed withered. Holy Froth off to the side. They're doing their best to delay. Naru finally back into this game and coming out. Looks to get the stun onto CLG.eu, and the unleashed power is still not quite enough to finish him off. Holy Froth will be slowing him down, and Fabulous flashing forwards onto Finite along with the Randuin's re-engagement comes in from Avalanche as well. Naru will drop back into the death chamber with him. Finite is still killing people left, right and center, and the follow-up as well from Mew. Fabulous isn't going to be able to go 2 versus 3. They've gone picked up another kill, 2 versus 2, and Shen is still trading off against them. This is the slowest fight literally in history. They are too tanky. I'm not even sure if they can get through his Fate Shield. They're still trading off. Spuddington, this is the slowest fight I've ever casted.
He doesn't quite have the mana to spam the siphoning strikes. He's turned it around on Crystal Meth, and now Fabulous is once again trading off. Will the super creeps turn it around?
The crescendo came through and has stunned them out, but they're completely out of mana, they're out of energy, everyone is out of cooldowns, and he eventually makes the call to back on off. Fate will be up enough for nothing to happen ever.
I'm a little bit surprised that Holy Phoenix didn't get there in time. I think he thought there was no possible way the fight could carry on long enough for him to get there, but it did. He actually, in the end, was really close, but one Nexus tower did fall, so the end result is that the Baron buff is gone. Draven has died, we got a couple of kill streak goals, and we have reset almost. One inhibitor down, will respawn relatively soon, I believe, and that is going to mean we have an interesting question. Will Dark Passage now be able to get themselves back into the correct mindset to play this game?
Yeah, indeed. And as you said, it's kind of reset the board, which is the best possible outcome, honestly, that Dark Passage could have hoped for. It's still going to mean that Nasus can't safely split push, but he's still got the... Alright guys, so if you want to go ahead and tweet at us at our Twitters, then we can go ahead and answer questions, because it's very likely that we'll be sitting here for another 10 minutes.
Oh, that's just typical. Well, you know, it's one of those things. We do sometimes have very long pauses. I mean, it happens in real sports too. As I say, real sports, as it were, physical sports. You know, non glasses wearing sports.
I'm just
Yeah.
kind of imagining like a football game going on, and you know that bug that you have as spectators where they kind of run on the spot and they get stuck like that.
Well, in America, I believe the last Super Bowl they had, major sporting event, light went out. Awkward, because it was an indoor stadium as well.
Oh man.
Yeah, that would have been. It was quite funny actually from my perspective because I don't even give the slightest bit of care about the American football. No offense to any American footballers or other people that care watching, but I'm
Oh,
a
you're digging
nerd.
one.
I'm also European. It's
Indeed.
fine. I play real football. No, I mean, I don't play it. I'm noodle arms and noodle legs.
Ooh,
But
I've had an interaction.
have you?
It's from Bass.
Is he asking you about your thighs again?
He's not actually. This is easily the longest fight I've ever. Oh, he's just quoting me. It was quite a long. It was quite a long fight.
I have a question. I have a question from Adam Sharman. All right. Why isn't Talon played more, even maybe as a top laner?
We need to make sure that this question lasts us for the next 7 minutes.
Well, we can answer it, and you can give your opinion, and I can give my opinion, and then you can give your opinion again, and we can repeat until the 7 minutes is over.
Alright, that seems good. In chat, people are spamming !bass, which is the best thing I've ever witnessed. But okay, back on to that question with Talon. Talon in the top lane suffers from being Talon. In the top lane, he is very unlike any of the top laners at the moment. Take a look at the likes of somewhat like Olaf, but mostly, like Nasus or even like Jax, who eventually get stronger later on and into the game. And Talon, yes, he's an AD champion, very similar to Zed in fact. And yes, they are AD, and they will eventually get stronger. And you can see my analysis is going out of the window as I can't even speak English. But he can't really trade effectively against top laners. He will just die one-on-one, essentially, against many of the matchups.
Yeah, the basic problem that Talon has is that in a sustained trade with a bruiser, or with almost any top laner, even a less conventional one like Kennen, he's generally going to come out worse in sustained damage. He's got quite a lot more burst than your average top laner, but that doesn't matter when you're in top lane and everyone's just stacking defenses and there's just no way to burst anyone. Mid lane Talon, that can be a much more valid choice. We saw it actually a couple of days ago, a Talon versus a Kassadin mid lane. I believe it was Copenhagen Wolves running it. That could be my memory going completely out the window. We definitely did see Talon. He is a very bursty champion. He does have extremely high burst damage, especially in this kind of level 6 to level 11 kind of period. He is really strong. The only problem he does suffer with compared to someone like Zed, who is a very similar champion, is that while he may have a little more burst and he may have a little bit less capacity for an enemy to counterplay against him, he does have a problem with being unable to disengage. If he gets baited, he's in for life, and that life is likely to be short.
Indeed. There's another question chat which I'm going to paraphrase. Basically, how do you think the AP shift for supports will affect support play? I do have a reconnect, but that doesn't really mean anything in the grand scheme of things. And how will that encourage different types of support champions? So, the likes of Fiddlesticks and Zyra. Initially for me, Spuddington, I feel like, if anything, the traditional supports have been nerfed. There was an interesting thread on Reddit basically saying that you need 200 AP on most of the supports for them to be back pre-patch. So that the non-traditional supports, like Fiddlesticks and Annie, who can now start building items, will only be stronger than before, because they haven't had changes because they're not traditional supports.
Yeah, it is a strange thing, isn't it? Because if you give it AP scaling that and then take off the base damage, or the base value, for instance, from a Janna shield, then you've only made it so that the gold that they now have is forced into making it as good as it used to be, or they're going to be worse than they were and you'll have some alternative effect. And if you don't adjust the balance of all the other champions in the game to kind of work around that, then you're just going to make them worse by comparison, because now they need that gold, which, let's face it, there are going to be circumstances in which you don't get the gold that you want. It's a question that I'm not willing to say has definitely been answered yet, though, because I haven't done the maths on it, and even though it might be the case that supports are now generally worse, they all tend to have one thing in common, which is a lot of CC, which is very hard to put a value on.
Yeah, there's only so much we can really say about, as a caster, about the new meta, because we have to wait until kind of the hive mind of the League of Legends community gets at it and see how it kind of settles at all levels of play. So a question I have been asked on my Twitter is, how is it to be a caster? Well, in this circumstance, very depressing.
I've actually had the exact same questions right now. How is it to be a caster? Yes, could have been better, could have been better, could have been worse. I mean, I don't mind talking. It's just when you don't have a lot to talk about, there could be an interesting thing. Some very broad questions. I had, what do you think of the preseason 2014 in the pro scene? In short, my own opinion of that is it's just going to blow the doors off of everything, because we have no idea what will happen. At the moment, we're seeing the very, very early stages of a metagame essentially evolving right before our eyes in these games. I don't know if there's anything you want to say about that, Pulse, but it seems very, very difficult to predict.
Yeah, I agree completely, but the meta for this game apparently seems to be prolonging it as long as possible. Which is funny, because that's actually what the game is doing, and also what benefits the team of Dark Passage because of Nasus.
Yes, unfortunately, when the game is paused, even Nasus cannot farm his Q. We've also got another question, which, to my mind, is perhaps a little bit odd, but explain the difference between NIP and CW, so Ninjas in Pajamas and Copenhagen Wolves.
Well, initially, I would say they're two different teams and have different players in them.
Wow, that's deep. That's
I know, man.
A level of analysis.
That's what happens when you have to talk for over an hour, because the pause is, oh man, we're back in game. That surely means we'll only be going to a pause in the next 5 minutes.
Well, they've only got about a minute left of the pause timer, so at this point, if someone disconnects, I think they're just going to have to carry on with it. So that puts a bit of a no.
There we go.
Well, Naru's disconnected. So 1 minute and 40 left on the delay time. But Copenhagen Wolves versus NIP, Ninjas in Pajamas. We haven't actually seen Ninjas in Pajamas in action yet. They were going to be playing in the EUS Challenger Series the last time we were running it, but they pulled out at the last moment, citing that they did not want to reveal their strategies and their plans, I think, before the LCS promotional. So, can't really tell you much about them right now.
Yeah, that's basically it. That's what they told us, and they were replaced by Millennium, who were actually taken down in the our last Challenger Series, in fact. We do have 1 minute left, so the most interesting things will be happening, Spuddington. A game that will be casting, in which there will be disconnects, and there's nothing the players can do about it. Which will introduce some interesting play, where it's like, do you just aggress onto them? I guess we've just waited for half an hour, so just let's roll with it. Might as well just roll with the disconnects, roll with the punches.
Yes, indeed. We had Chu-Yu in chat saying 2 hours game XD, which is kind of my sentiments on the whole thing right now, especially considering I had to jump in on this game because Mezzers was taken rather suddenly ill, which was rather unfortunate in a way. Although, I like casting. It's a good thing to be doing. It's just that it's taking a little longer than normal.
Imagine if Mezzers was casting this game. That would be the worst possible outcome.
He's clairvoyant.
He knew. He
knew
what was
up. He did not want the future going down.
Absolutely.
Oh boy.
And it's funny, we've resumed in this game, Spuddington, and the same thing that was happening on the pause is happening right now in the game. Very little.
Yes, indeed. Well, as we mentioned before, this is kind of almost like a reset point. However, 15 seconds until the Baron, and that could get taken down very, very quickly. Remember, Draven, Riven, Elise, 3 very fast Baron clearing characters. The flip side of that, of course, is that Dark Passage, if they're willing to use Fabulous's ult, will also clear it very quickly. But it looks like they're going to not care about that. They are just going to barrel down the mid lane. They have actually somewhat split Avalanche up, but they need to be very careful in case that gives Riven an angle on their backline. Poking down the tower, though, will Shen go for the engage?
Quick siege before Naru disconnects again. They are pushing very aggressively in their base. Roldo being very aggressive himself, in fact. And now they've kind of just backed enough.
Well, they've taken a significant chunk out of the inhib, I guess, and their own inhib has just respawned.
Yep, super minions are pushing down the bottom lane. They're going to have to make some sort of power play at the moment. Are they going to send someone back? And in fact, they will be pushing back the Nasus. They were unable to go for the Baron. The flash crescendo lands on the Holy Phoenix. The worst person possible already into the Guardian Angel. And he will be settling around him for the execute. Crystal Meth jumps into his absolute zero. He saved the life as AD carry. And he culling will be used from long range to deal some damage. However, Elise popping over the wall in the middle of an angry lineup. But that's a very low team in terms of HP, and it's a very easy rotation to Baron.
Yeah, that is going to be the Baron, and it's going to be the inhib as well. The minion pressure happening there, and a brilliant flash crescendo from Roldo set that whole chain of events into motion. Holy Phoenix, no GA. Fabulous, no teleport and no flash. Another tower falls in the mid lane, and that means Avalanche now are going to go for the win. Surely they have such big advantages right now.
Dark Passage are up against it. Naru did get taunted, but responds with some damage. In fact, the recalls come in from Avalanche. They just want to get that little bit more out of the build, everything they can, to make sure that the next team fight, they are as strong as possible. And they know that that Guardian Angel was down on Lucian now, so they're just going to gear up for this team fight. The bottom inhibitor is down. Let's hope that they just go for this team fight.
Yeah, I can't imagine them not going for the team fight right now. What I would say, though, is that a really important factor in the next fight. No GA on Holy Phoenix, as we've already mentioned. Flash is up on Ribbon. Right now, her build, nearly complete. She has more than enough damage to 100-0 Holy Phoenix in maybe a second. That is how long she will need. If Lucian gets in range of a flash, she's dead. Same actually kind of true of Naru. Does have the Zhonya's available though.
Indeed, and both of the teams trying to choke each other of the vision. At the moment, it does appear that Avalanche are winning, kind of congregating in the top jungle, as Baron was point of contention before it did drop to the aforementioned team. And now in the top lane, they will be gearing up to try and defend this outer turret. Right now, they are just trying to siege it down. Both of these teams are still looking very strong, but Nasus has forced them to a team fight, not quite when he was really wanting to. But if they get a pick, that could be incredibly good. Mew takes the initiative, and Naru gets completely stun-locked straight into the Zhonya's, though no kills, no casualties gone on just yet. Willing Death comes through, picks at one. Crystal Meth is just not tanky enough at this stage. Holy Fuck will surely die, as Elise is still on that backline. Holy Phoenix eventually gets locked down, and Fabulous is still behind as well. He's got the Randuin, he pops it, and only one casualty in both of the teams. But meanwhile, CLG.eu did drop, so both of the mid lanes off the field, and they are in no man's land. They're sitting inside of their base. They're going to have to try and evacuate this one, but Elise gets caught by a fantastic bubble from Holy Fuck. He will have to drop down at some point. Fabulous, he will get cocooned, but auto attacks come in and shutdown comes in for Holy Phoenix. Find out comes in, he's on the very front lines. Questionable decision as the Guardian Angel comes up. Holy Froth trying his best to keep away Shen. 3-for-1 trade. This could be the comeback for Dark Passage.
But can Holy Phoenix actually keep this Nexus turret up? That super creep is bashing down on the minions are spawning though. That should keep it alive, at least for now. Fabulous and Crystal Meth are pushing out. They will be able to take that inhibitor. Both of them are way too tanky for Shen to bring down in any reasonable amount of time. They will defend until Riven spawns, but Fabulous does have enough mana. He's assuming he's able to take out that inhibitor. That puts them now, both teams, on very equal footing. Crescendo used, they're fighting this out.
They are indeed trying to whittle that Nasus down before he can take the inhibitor, but they do take it down, but they pick up the Nasus in return. It's 48 minutes in, and that's over a 70-second death timer. If they can get the second kill to Crystal Meth, the flash and dash from Shen, this could be absolutely vital towards their win. The inhibitor will not even matter, and Roldo will pick that one up. Surely they should make some sort of play out of those 2 kills.
This is getting very, very, very ridiculous at this point. We've got Fabulous obviously dead for another 47 seconds. Elise with Home Guard. Draven, much the same. He's respawning right now. This is their push. They want to win off of this. There is a lot of damage available for Dark Passage, and the wave they've chosen to push in is the one with super creeps. Can they do anything? Will Mew go for a flash taunt?
He's already used it on the Nunu, and Dark Passage are trying their best to keep them away from this. Got another 20 seconds on the Nasus, another 30 seconds on the Nunu. They're slowly pushing this one down. Can CLG.eu get a beat on one of those vital targets of Naru, of Holy Phoenix? The answer is no, but the inhibitor drops. The bottom inhibitor surely to follow. Top minions are pushing in very aggressively. Pingers come down. They realize someone needs to react to that. That will be Lucian. Will he use the culling to clear this one out? It might be his only option at this stage. If they lose all three of those inhibitors, it's basically like instantly losing game. Fabulous, they've bought enough time for him to come back in. They could go for this fight potentially. The Wither comes in and the bubble comes up. The culling as well. CLG.eu dropping low. Shen uses the Stand United, keeps him safe and definitely healthy, but Crystal Meth has also entered the battlefield.
And they are still alive for now. That was 2 inhibs down, exchanged for the only one they got in that mid lane. However, not a huge difference. Teleport back up on Fabulous. They have the potential to lose the game on another push, but they also have the potential to get a kill, even a couple of kills, and win off of it. Because as you say, 70-second death timers now, that is getting to the point where no one will be able to afford to die and then survive, essentially, because a 4-on-5 team fight now could be disastrous for either side. One thing to note though, Lucian's GA is back up.
I was just going to mention that myself, and Finite is definitely not. He lost it in the last team fight, being incredibly aggressive, maybe a little too much so, and that is going to definitely affect the next team fight. It's a question of whether Avalanche have to go for this fight. Because they're so aggressive, they're stymieing Nasus's potential to split push, and therefore stymieing his potential late game. Are they just going to wait for the Draven Guardian Angel? It's going to be a big factor in the next team fight. At the same time, they might just want to close this game out.
Yes, and now Fabulous is committing himself to the bottom lane. That means that they know they can make this push happen right now. Avalanche are going to force him to return very, very quickly. If they can force Nasus to teleport now and then disengage, that bottom lane could be the factor that decides the way this game goes. Mew is tanky enough to tank tower shots, but Draven does not dare go anywhere near that Syndra stuff.
Indeed, mid lane is evening itself out, but the bottom lane will definitely not be. He has to move himself up to the top lane. Elixirs all over the board from Avalanche. Gearing up for the next team fight. All the cooldowns are indeed ready for both of these teams. Finite gets hit. That might be the engagement they want. The bubble came in, and Fabulous is still on the front lines. Lots of damage coming in from the AD carries. Whirling Death comes through, and it definitely looks like we do have Dark Passage edging ahead. Tidal Wave comes through. Ping comes back onto the Nexus, and they have to commit someone to that. That will be Nasus. He can clear it very quickly, but will it be fast enough before they concede? Long time until the minion wave hits.
Yes, indeed, but the same is true of Avalanche. They have no minion wave for at least another couple of seconds. That will give Nasus the chance to recharge his mana, rebuy his elixirs, and run out to join up. Once again, close run stuff. A lot of ultimates are actually still down, including Tidal Wave, which is not going to be ideal for them. But when are the inhibitors respawning? When is Baron spawning? Actually should have been what I was asking. That is going to go once again to Avalanche, and that, I don't want to say it will end it because at this point it's relatively insignificant, but that is huge again.
Indeed, but every time they pick up the Baron, it hasn't made the blindest bit of difference. They still haven't been able to crack that last tower, which has been their key to the victory. Oh, but if they can find themselves a Nami, that will be absolutely perfect. Holy Froth in the jungle. They're committing all their cooldowns to this because a 4 versus 5 would be huge for them right now. 4 versus 5. Can they still fight this? They can be as aggressive as they like. CLG.eu is caught in their jungle, though, forced to use the flash defensively. He's out of position, but Shen has kept up with that for the flash, for the engagement. They pick up one. Moving on to Crystal Meth, picks up the second with Wind Slash. Culling comes through, and there's no way he can go 1 versus 5. Gets taunted out. Rael comes down. Meanwhile, on the backside, Fabulous trying to take on the world. He's just not strong enough. The double kill comes in. Holy Phoenix still has his Guardian Angel passive. Valiant attempt, but Finite is still alive, and indeed vamping off of the minions, restoring so much of his HP. The Ace comes in. That's 5 for 0, Spuddington, and we will see the end of this game.
That is going to mean a game 3 in this series, going to 53 minutes with about as much of a pause timer as well. In the end, taken by Avalanche in a heroic effort, and I hate to say it, but Holy Thoth was the one final mistake, the straw that broke the camel's back.
Indeed, and we will be going on to the third and final game, guys, and you know what that means? An extra 30 minutes on that pause timer.
Oh boy, have you been waiting for delirium time? Because I've been waiting for it for quite some time. Regardless though, if you want to enter our giveaway, type exclamation giveaway. For the rest of you though, stick around, we will be right back with the next game.